Hey y'all, welcome back to Culture Cult. This is a podcast where I tell you really crazy history from every country in the world, hoping that we can learn about each other even more. And I'm your host, Marie. And yeah, it's been a minute. It's been like 6 months, y'all. Let's just be honest. But we're back. We're really back, y'all. It is season fucking 4, and we are covering the island of Guadeloupe, New Zealand, and a country y'all have been asking since season 1. We are going to be covering Mongolia. So just a couple of household things. We are now going to be a bi-monthly podcast because it's just me behind this mic and this production. Yes, so now we are a bi-monthly podcast, but that shouldn't make you too sad because I'm doing that to make sure we have no more breaks in this season, like this past 6 months that I took off. So this season alone will stretch till June. That's like a 6-month season, y'all. So y'all got me for 6 months and continuously. You'll also notice there's a new brand. If you have been here since season 1, yes, I know I have changed the brand a million times, but I actually hired a brand designer and this shit is fire. And also the Instagram's finally popping off. Like the Instagram has been a hot mess. It's been embarrassing, but now it's fucking cool. We're doing cool stuff like Music Mondays. We're doing polls. It's just a really great way to connect with me. So if you want to check out the Instagram, it is at culturecultshow. Okay, household stuff out of the way. Welcome, y'all. Welcome to any listeners that have been listening since the beginning or has stuck around on that 6-month break. Thank you so much. If you're new, you're going to have a great time. So today we are covering not actually a country. It's a French colony, and it is the island of Guadeloupe in the Caribbean. So why are we covering this random tiny island in the Caribbean? That's because some of the most remarkable people have come from this island. And today, we are covering, I think, personally, the most talented person that has ever walked this earth. You might have been hearing that there's some guy called Black Mozart. Maybe you watched the terrible movie Chevalier. I call it terrible because the movie did him absolutely no justice. This man is a baller, and I'm making sure we're doing not 1, but 2 episodes on him. This is a part 1 and part 2 episode. And I am telling his story with my comedian friend Ralph. So if you like this episode, if you liked hearing his story, please share it with a friend. They're gonna love it too. And with that, we are talking about the going to be household name, going to be famous, Joseph Bologne Chevalier De Saint-George. Today we are covering, it's not a country, it's actually a colony, which we will get into that later. But we are covering an island called Guadeloupe, or sometimes I hear people calling it Guadeloupe. So, and later on in the story, we are going to talk about, I think, possibly the most talented man that's ever walked this earth. And we're going to cover his story too, along with the island, because that's where he's from. But I want to talk about the island first. Have you heard of the island Guadeloupe, and where do you think it is?
Guadeloupe. Okay. Where do I think Guadeloupe is? Guadeloupe. Dang. Guadeloupe. Is it? No, it's not near Africa, is it?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Is it in the Atlantic?
It is in the Atlantic Ocean. It's very close to Haiti because it's in the Caribbean.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's part of the Caribbean Antilles. And so that's kind of why I wanted you on this episode, since you are Haitian. I feel like there's going to be a lot of things maybe in the story that you'll relate to, just like how the culture is. So it's a string of islands. I think there's like 7 to 9 islands. And so this island looks beautiful. Like, you know how we were talking about how much we like are craving rain and nature, and like this has everything. Like it has huge volcanoes, black sand beaches, lagoons, hot springs spilling into the ocean, like scuba diving. There's iguana islands.
Iguanas, huh? They're still dinosaurs. Iguanas are scary as hell, bro. They move too fast for something that looks like that.
I don't trust them. I don't do well with animals. Animals usually attack me, so I won't go there. But if you are interested in that, there are iguana islands. But yeah, this is kind of what I've been craving lately. I'm very drawn to it right now. And so a little history, just briefly history about the islands. So the indigenous people were called the Arawak and the Tiano, and they lived on these islands for centuries. They named their island the Carocera, which means the island of beautiful waters. Another cool fact is the Arawak language is the largest pre-Columbian language before all the colonization of America. So this was like the language they spoke was spread from the Caribbean all the way down to South America. So it's a pretty big indigenous group.
And then everyone started speaking Spanish.
Well, actually, yeah. Well, okay. What's interesting is the name is Guadeloupe, which we think, oh, it's Spanish, Spanish island. But the island mainly speaks Creole and French. When I was looking up on this island, it said like every island is very different from each other because I think they got colonized by so many different kinds of people. So it's a big melting pot. But we will get into their history more on one of the later episodes. I just want to say, preface this island has so many stories. Like it's only about like probably 7 islands, but I can't, every time I look it up, there's just more coming out of it. So I'm super excited to cover this place. And just real quick, so the Arawak were there first. Then obviously everyone's favorite person, Christopher Columbus, comes in 1492, wrecked everything, raped everything, piece of shit. And then, then they installed slavery and they figured out sugarcane was thriving in this part of the world. And they had a bunch of plantations and they imported a lot of people from Africa. And it's just really sad from there. So
slavery.
Brief history. I don't mean to like briefly talk about it, but there's a lot to cover. Another thing, you can get drunk there with the best rum in the world. So a lot of places they use molasses in their rums, but they use straight sugarcane juice, and it's called tea punch. And the women drink cocoa punch, and I think they have it in Haiti too. Did you drink a lot there?
Tea? No, I didn't. I was like a kid, so.
Oh.
But they are known for their rum too.
And then also what's cool about this island is that it's incredibly diverse. Like we think of like America, melting pot. No. Guadeloupe is so diverse. It has, the Creole people, which are usually descendants of slaves. Then you have the descendants of the plantation owners, so white people. And then you have East Indian and Chinese people, because after they stopped slavery, they were like, well, we still need labor. And so they just imported Indian and Chinese people to do the work. And then lastly, but not least, Lebanese people. Yeah. So the food's fire.
Yeah, Lebanese food is fire.
You got like Creole, you got Lebanese, Chinese, and Indian. Like that sounds like my cuisine.
Are they known for their food too?
I don't know. I was listening to like one of the chefs there. I don't think they're known for it, but they have the background of like French cuisine on top of all these spices. And the chef was saying the produce there is incredible and he won't use anything but from the island. He was like, it just doesn't taste the same. So I was like, damn, I got to go there. Like, it just seems like a very abundant, vibrant place.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of colors, a lot of spices.
Yeah. A lot of dancing, but it's kind of overlooked. It's really just like a vacation spot for a lot of the French. But we're going to get more into this as we get into the series on the island. But I wanted to just set the tone. We got the lagoons, we got the black sand, we got the sharks, we got the spices. It sounds freaking awesome. But yeah, so that's a little bit about the island. I do want to just quickly jump ahead into our story because I was telling you it's a big one. It's a really big story. So by the way, there's a lot of French words in this episode. And I am not good at French. So I'm going to beat all the French people out there to it. I'm going to offend you. I know it. Sorry. So the story, we're talking about one of the most talented and brave men that's probably walked this earth. And he was born on a plantation on the small island of Guadeloupe. So this is just one of those people that kind of comes along I feel like every century we have one of those, and he has just talent left and right. He kind of came into the light due to a movie called Chevalier, but his name is resurfacing from the grave. And today we are going to talk about Joseph Bologne Chevalier De Saint-George.
Okay.
Right? So to put this man into perspective, a Seattle-based violinist, professor, and filmmaker, Quentin Morris, described him as, quote, the entertainment appeal of Michael Jackson and the athleticism of Michael Jordan.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that's who we're talking about today. So,
okay.
So Joseph was born on Christmas Day, December 25th, 1745. He was born on the island that we are featuring today, Guadeloupe. He was born a slave. His father, George Bologne de Saint-George, was not a slave. He was actually the plantation owner. who already had a wife and family. So where did Joseph come from? Joseph came from George and his mother, who was a slave, a Senegalese woman. Her name was Nanon. And apparently his mother, Nanon, was absolutely stunning. Like, it's in the records that she was stunning. And she was the slave and personal maid for George's wife. So I don't know if it was consensual.
Definitely wasn't.
Definitely wasn't. So we're going to just go ahead and wrap that one up as rape. But that's was George's wife's personal maid, was Nanon. And that's where Joseph came from. So apparently George loved Nanon, his mother, and he actually loved Joseph, like truly loved his son. And so Joseph already is pretty lucky for this time period, considering he's born into slavery on a plantation, but his daddy boss guy treated him like a son. He gave him a surname, which did not happen back then. Some people didn't even get names at all. And he actually provided for Joseph and Nanon. But ironically, I think he made Joseph a free boy. But Nanon, though he loved her, quote unquote, never became free. She was still a slave.
Damn.
Yeah. So super fucked up. But George wanted the best future for his son, Joseph. So at age 7, Joseph boards a ship with his dad, leaving his island, his home, his mom, like everything he knows. And he goes to a place he's probably heard of, and he goes to a place called France. They land in Paris, and the minute they get there, George is on top of it. He's like the Kris Jenner of this generation. He's like, I want my kids to be famous, you know? So imagine like that kind of energy. So he hired the best tutors he could find, and he immediately put Joseph in a boarding school. So Joseph, again, went from an island plantation as a slave. Now he's the only Black child probably in a Parisian boarding school, like miles and millions of miles away from his home. So pretty different, I could say. So Joseph is attending the boarding school to become society's perfect gentleman. That is his goal for his son. And while George is super wealthy and big on the island of Guadeloupe, he was nothing in France. He was just a commoner. And that was until 1757, George, the dad, somehow, I don't know how he swung this. He became the personal assistant to King Louis XV. Like, I don't know how he got that job. And he was made an officer in the King's Guard and was given the title Chevalier de Saint-George. So the dad's been knighted. That's like coming to America and becoming the personal assistant to the president all of a sudden. It's pretty crazy. So Joseph is in the boarding school and the doors are wide open for him. He was enrolled into the Royal Academy of Fencing. And very, very quickly, he started excelling faster and better than anyone else in the academy. The Master of Arms, which I guess is like their director, had a son in the school with him. And he described Joseph as, quote, well built with a great physical strength, supple and slim with astonishing speed. No one else showed as much gracefulness and discipline. And Joseph became the best swordsman in the academy at age 15 years old. And by 17, he was regarded as one of the best swordsmen in all of Europe. Like, hands down.
Damn.
At 17.
Damn.
Yeah. And it pissed people off as much as it really excited them. So he started getting this like fan base. Everyone's whispering his name. They're like, have you heard of Joseph? And a lot of the racist guys are pissed off. He's actually gaining a pretty big following too. Pretty cool. So one guy really started to hate Joseph. His name was André Picard. And he was a fencing master in Normandy. By the way, also a grown-ass man. And he was pissed off all the way in Normandy. And he wrote a letter to Joseph's father asking George for a public duel with his, quote, mulatto, which is a person of African and European descent. And it's a straight insult. And Joseph was like, bet, let's go. So now they have a match coming on between technically the best swordsman in Europe and now a 17-year-old slave boy from Guadeloupe. And they're about to have a match. And it's a public duel. And everyone comes to this duel.
Your lad going against the greatest swordsman in the world? No, is it really true? Yes, it's happening on Thursday in Piccadilly Lane. Piccadilly Lane? What time on Thursday? When the sun hits the dial, you fool. Okay, go ahead.
Accurate, but they're in France.
Okay. Oh, shit.
So,
Did you hear? Did you hear about the 17-year-old gentleman? What is he going to do next? He will be taking on the greatest swordsman on the planet. Fromage. I will like to eat the cheese and the fresh bread. Okay, I'm done.
Guys, exact representation of what was happening. Everyone's pulling up to see the 17-year-old against this small egoed man, Alexandre Picard. And so, short story, Alexandre got his ass handed to him publicly.
Damn.
Quick match. It was quick, done. It was a slaughter. And this match obviously was very embarrassing for Alexandre. He probably traveled there too to meet him. And he lost. But this did help sway the public opinion about the idea of like, you know, racism and the superiority complex of like white man versus like black man. So I think he's starting to change people's opinions about black people just by kicking this guy's ass. So Alexandre went home, but Joseph just kept going. He was like, that was nothing. I'm going to keep moving on. And Joseph graduated the academy and was granted the same title as his father, Chevalier, which is the name of knighthood. So now they're both knights. So life is just up for this man. Everyone knows his name. He has a title of knighthood. He's going to the most lavish Parisian parties. He's also a huge player. Like every woman wants him. If you don't know what he looks like, I actually would say look it up right now. He is fine. And actually, if you want to see like what he would look like in modern day, the Royal Now Studios on YouTube did a rendition of what he would look like in modern day. And it's really cool to see. And yeah, he's really hot. And I think we just need to take a second and just like pause and reflect on this man's situation. Because anyone in this time period is not doing okay. It's the 1700s. They're probably still throwing their shit outside of the window. Like if you're born a slave, you're going to die a slave. If you're born a serf, you're going to die a serf. Like you don't rise ranks in this time period. That doesn't happen, especially if you are a black man born in a colony on a plantation. So like
facts.
To be knighted and to go be invited to all these lavish parties, like this is pretty freaking insane. That's like huge if that happened today, but it's happening back in the 1700s for him. So he's enjoying this lifestyle. Things are really moving for him. Before he was even 20 years old, two famous composers dedicated their work to him. And he was just meeting and greeting everyone. And fencing was how he was recognized, but that wasn't his true love. His true love in life was music, which is why I also wanted you on today, because you're a musician. I feel like you're going to really appreciate this side of him. Jump to 1769.
How old is he?
He is probably 21 at this point.
Okay.
So he's already an accomplished fencing master, and he's just now discovering that he loves music. It was because people were writing operas about him. So jump to 1769. All the elites of Paris are at the opera. Like this is the place to be. And they're there to see an orchestra. And as the curtains are drawn, everyone's jaw drops because on stage was the best swordsman in Europe playing amongst the violins. And he made no announcement. He did not announce this. He's just been practicing all year, but he has never told anyone he's been practicing. Boom. He just appears on stage at the Paris Opera of all places. Yeah. So it's probably like if someone like Michael Jordan, and imagine if like he just took on the Super Bowl stage but started singing opera. It would be fucking shocking.
Yeah. Yeah. And doing it well.
Yeah. And not announcing it either to anyone.
Kind of like the mystique, right? Like, hey, I'm not announcing that I'm doing something, and just like the shock and awe, like, oh my God, he can do it.
Yeah. I really like that mentality. I feel like I don't follow that mentality. I have too big of a mouth, but I would love to like master something and then not tell anyone and then just show it off, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of admirable. I fuck with that.
I actually was listening to, there's a podcast I'm obsessed with called Hindsight, which I already told you about, but he talks a lot about how when you are creating something to not speak of it to anyone. That way it's just yours and you can keep mastering it and you can keep getting better and better and not having anyone's influences or negativity And hey, if you suck, like you have time to get better because you're not talking about it and you're not getting discovered yet. You know, the fame's not coming to you too soon because you're not announcing it. And that way, when you are really good at what you do, everything will come to you when it's needed. And I really, really like that. And because everyone wants fame so quickly or to be noticed
so
quickly.
fast.
I mean, this guy, he practiced for like a year and then now he's in the Paris Opera. He didn't tell nobody. Maybe his dad.
I think there was like less distractions at that time too.
True. That is very true. Even the whole Michael Jordan comparison with like him going to the Super Bowl, like everyone would be like, wow, and talk about it for a day and then move on. But that's because we have a saturation of celebrities in our society. There's no celebrities back then. Like this guy may be the first celebrity. He's like shocking people. He's getting fans. He's making people pissed off and creating enemies. People are traveling just to fight him. So this is a pretty big moment that he just showed up on stage. So within 2 years, he became concert master, which means he was one of the best violinists ever. By 1772, he was getting standing ovations for his solo performances. He was the anomaly everyone traveled to come see. In 1773, he became the symphony's director of the Paris fucking opera. And everyone was talking about Le Mozart Noir, which is the Black Mozart. That's how they were calling him. I mean, he is killing it. But around 1774, his dad would pass away in his home in Guadeloupe. And a lot of the wealth that would have been passed down to Joseph and Nanon didn't go to them. Because of French law, they would see none of the money that George promised them. All the money would go to his, I guess, like white sister and George's legitimate daughter and George's wife. So they didn't get any of the money. So it's kind of like the safety net is kind of gone. Like this man who's like brought you up, taken you to Paris, shown you this world, gone. So he has to make a decision. He's got to ball out even harder. You know, he doesn't have a safety net. He's now kind of alone. I would be thinking in his position is I've got to keep my name in the papers, my name up, because I am an anomaly here. I am a Black man in Paris. So the next few years, he just went to fucking work. He went to work. He participated in hundreds and hundreds of duels, boxing matches, directed symphonies, wrote solo concerts. He wrote 20 pieces of music, and he even wrote comedy. So
sheesh.
Yeah, he was just doing it. And I'm sure because he was like, I got to get going, you know? And 1776, the Paris Opera was really struggling creatively. It was financially dry, and people were looking to him to be the next director. But of course, there's always the haters. And he was reminded again that even though he's the most wanted man in Europe in every way, there's still people who just can't look past the fact that he's Black. And 3 of the leading opera ladies petitioned to Queen Marie Antoinette that, quote, their honor and delicate conscience could never allow them to submit to the orders of a mulatto.
Damn.
But Joseph didn't want to deal with the drama. He was like, whatever, I don't care. And he withdrew his name from the consideration. But get this shit. In response, from the petition, the royal crown decided to close the Paris Opera to everyone, the public. They're like, if y'all aren't going to respect Joseph, y'all aren't getting any music. And that's like where you got music. So the king and queen shut down the opera for him.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So they decided to invite Joseph to live in their gated palace of Versailles.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so you also have to remember this time period, though, like we're at the beginnings of the French Revolution. Marie Antoinette and King Louis live far off in the distance. Paris is struggling financially, and they're just throwing these lavish parties. They've now taken Joseph, but also they've taken music away from the city. So you could see possibly how that could fire up the people even more for the revolution. Like everything's dominoes, you know?
Yeah.
So now you could only technically hear opera and like beautiful music at Versailles, and only if you're on good terms with the royal family and if you're in Marie Antoinette's intimate circle. And Joseph got to live there in Versailles, and sometimes apparently Joseph and Marie Antoinette would jam out together on the piano. Like,
nice.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
They just like partied and had fun together, which is really cool. So he spent the next few years just fighting, composing, playing music at Versailles. And finally, in 1778, that summer, he was walking around with the title of Le Mozart Noir, but he actually ended up meeting the real Mozart. Mozart and him were staying at the same palace that summer. and they actually got to play at Versailles together.
Oh,
So
shit. And they get along too?
I think so. I wonder what Mozart felt about like someone calling him like another version of you. Like if he took it as a compliment or like a threat.
At least they're still saying his name.
Yeah, that's true. But honestly, like Joseph's cooler. Like I don't think Mozart could fence. Maybe he could. So that is cool that they finally did get to meet up. By 1780s, Joseph became the patron for his friend Louis Philippe II, who was the wealthiest man in France and the cousin to the king. And Louis, we like him. He is a huge important factor to the French Revolution. So like a patron back then is just someone like a rich person would hire you. They'd be like, I love your music, Ralph. You're going to live in my freaking mansion and you're going to play music whenever I say, or I want you to create something for me. And I think that's really cool. And I feel like I wish we did that today, you know?
It kind of happens in a way like that, music, right?
How?
A label's like, I like your music. You're going to make music for me. And I will
the label
pay you.
Owns you, right?
Well, those people kind of own them in a way.
I don't think it's like an owning thing. I think it's like I'm hiring you and you get free room and board, but you kind of only get to play for me and like my parties. But with a label, isn't it like you can't leave the contract?
Yeah, in a way. But what if those people left? Like I'm done playing with you. You're not done. You will never leave here until you create. Get back here. Get back here. And then they send letters to the other royals like, he is in blah, 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 blah. He is insubordinate. I've never seen his music is garbage. His past is his peak. Goodbye. And then they can not work for, I don't know. It's kind of similar, but of course it's different times. So they probably didn't have because royals would get paid. Like they would pay families to like make music for them and travel the world. And
yeah. Doesn't that sound great? I feel like this sounds better
sounds
than
cool.
Today.
It does sound kind of cool. And you know where your money's coming from. And it's gold. Gold. I will take these gold. Like the royal family be like, I'm commissioning you for a season to do work. Can you paint this church for me? I'm paying you for your livelihood right now. And when it's all done, goodbye. So here it'd probably be like, okay, you gave me an album. I need 5 more of these. Goodbye.
I mean, this situation, he's working for his friend. His best friend is like, yo, stay at my mansion and be my music guy.
I mean, I'm sure that happens too. Like, hell yeah, an artist is like, yo, hang out with me. You can stay at my guest house. I'd be like, hell yeah, boy. Let me write these hooks. Baby, baby, baby. Oh, got one. Next.
I would be pissed if I hired you and that's the song you made up.
Bro, and it's a hit though. It's a hit.
No, but I'm asking you to make music for me. I don't want to hear that shit.
Oh no, if it was for you, I'd just be like, sitting here drinking vodka and orange juice, wondering what's real in the news. I'm just trying to live out this illusion. Sitting here searching for love under the porch. I don't know, my fire's on torch. Like, some shit
I
like
love that. I like that. Okay, you're hired.
Thank you.
Well, okay. We learned a lot there. But back to Joseph. So he's actually living with his best friend. Okay, I'm just adding that title. I don't know if they're best friends. But his patron, Louis Philippe II. And again, we love Louis. We love him. He's a very progressive person for this time period. He was an abolitionist, which is dangerous to say back then. He's pro-democracy, kind of normal back then. The Enlightenment period's happening, so that word's being tossed around. The French not came up with it, but they're talking about it. And Louis even funded women's marches. And he said that at his palace was possibly the birthplace of the revolution. So his place was where ideas were forming. That's where ideas were spreading. He was coming up with hey guys, we need a new form of government. We need people to be free. Women need rights. That's what's happening in his house, along with Joseph playing music in the background. So we're going to stop there because we're about to hit the second part of Joseph's life, which is about the French Revolution.
Oh, really?
While he's still in our minds, he's a musical celebrity. He is pissing off men back and forth in swordsmanship. He's hanging out with Mozart in the Versailles, and he's now made friends with Louis, a very influential character in the French democracy in history. So his life's about to change pretty big time. So I want to make that the second part.
Okay, cool.
But what do you think of Joseph for
This
right
is the coolest thing that you could have ever done, you know, especially since I'm about to go to Paris in a couple of weeks. You know what I mean? But damn, I love that you chose this. Like, this is great. This is great.
What impresses you the most about him?
What impressed me the most is how he was just whooping people's asses and fencing. And just like, there's a certain kind of confidence that you have to get to be a swordsman. And he displayed that. Like, I mean, through the story you said, I'm like, damn, okay, anything is possible. Cause it's like, you're not even in a position to win. You're a bastard of a child in a sense. Like, people see you as a bastard child. And your mom's away, but you're killing it. Not only that, you're like, all right, let me switch and do music. And stunt in music, like, you're like, damn, like, it's pretty great.
I mean, enough to where literally the king and queen closed down the opera for you.
Yeah,
you know, he didn't ask them to. They just did it. 'Cause they're like, if you don't like Joseph, we don't like you.
That's
like,
power.
What I see in all of this, like among all of his impressive accomplishments, I see a man of great character. Like, I just see someone who's very confident, who holds himself super true to himself, and like doesn't need to be the loudest person in the room to be the confident, you know?
And I mean, this story is an inspiration of like determination and resilience against all odds, and just like shutting down and just being who you are and then executing. Really,
but from a young age, because he easily could have had all these like trauma complexes of like, oh my gosh, like I'm a slave, or my daddy isn't my real.
You don't have time to think like that back in the day.
No.
We just have time to think about trauma. So we're just like, oh, this is affecting me, and this is why I'm behaving like that. This is affecting me. This is why I'm behaving like that. Back then, it's just like, okay, I know I'm sad, but this is the way to get out right now. I'll deal with all that bullshit when I'm old.
Yeah.
And of course, they carry along the trauma, and the trauma kind of carries in the music, in the determination. Like, you know what I mean? If he sat around and thought about trauma all day, I don't think he'd practice violin. If he was just writing to his mom, like, mommy, like, and he just like, hey, I hope she's still alive. I don't know. I don't know his relationship.
I was thinking of someone who could be someone like this today. And the first person that popped up in my head is Donald Glover. You know, he is a man that does it all.
Everything.
Musician, actor, director. Like, I don't know if he plays sports, but I could see him being amazing at it if he tried.
He was a drama kid for sure. But Shaq is that guy that kind of like, I feel like did it all in a way. Yeah. So this is hard. Yeah, you never had like a top athlete become anything else where you have to see them. I think he's a very unique person then. Like, to be top athlete in the world and then become a top musician in the world. I mean,
there's a lot of talented people out there. It's just like, this time period is already so rough. So just the way he just excelled, like, even if you're the top athlete or the top whatever, you also weren't probably born a slave. Like, it's like, the levels of excellence is just.
Nowadays, you get out of poverty and you're worth your way up. But even so, like, to be great at two things, like two great things, like music, where people want to hear your music and then they want to see you fucking fence, like, because you still have that skill. I don't think that's like heard of.
I know. But I wonder, like, what's his faults? Like, it sounds like this guy's like on paper perfect. Everyone loves him. What would you rather see him do, like the fencing matches or music?
Bro, you got to see both. But if I really wanted to see
so you
something,
can only afford one thing back then.
I couldn't afford one thing. I'm about to watch that nigga fence. Like, I got to see, like, if he's the greatest in the world, because music is subjective. Because I could walk in there and be like, oh, he's all right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't get the hype, you know?
Yeah.
But fencing, you gotta win. Like, there's a win and a lose. So I'd leave there like, yo, hate or love it. Like, there's no subjective to like who wins or lost. So, like, it's just wins or loss. But now I would later on have to afford to see, like, what am I doing where I can't afford both in my whole life? Like, yo, I'm affording both. I don't give a fuck. I'm getting into that concert hall. I'm selling fucking pastries outside the fucking
hot dog stand guy.
Yeah. Hot dog, hot dog, hot dog.
Honestly, if I could go back in time, I want to experience this man. Like, I want to. That would be so cool. That'd be so cool. But again, we're only in the very beginnings of his story. This is like chapter 1.
Damn.
He has more levels to him. So
I'm ready.
yeah. I did want to say some resources for y'all in case you want to look up anything. The Royal Now Studio on YouTube, you can see how they changed his face from the portrait into modern day. You can see what he would look like today. And he's still a 10 straight up. And then you have the Seattle Times, the Smithsonian, and the LA Opera are all articles I got this from.
She did her research, y'all. She did her research.
I did my research. So also, well, speaking of music and art, anything going on?
Honestly, I'm just going overseas
Yeah.
to get inspired. Look at art. Look at Van Gogh. A little bit of Louvre. A little bit of this. A little bit of weirdness. You know, red light districts. You know, get a little naughty.
A little naughty.
A little naughty. A couple of beers, pints, Heineken. Come back and realize, like, okay, creativity is everywhere. I'll be doing a lot of writing. Like, I feel like that's what my summer right now. I got it's being mixed. My computer is gone. My hard drive is gone out of my possession into the hands of God and the engineers. And so, but yeah, creativity wise, I'm just probably going to take pictures in Europe using like an old camera.
Yeah.
And just chill, man. Just let my brain loose.
Yes.
Just like, so I'm not in like a creative space, but I'm always like, you know, rhyming and singing songs and making people joke. So, but as far as like producing any art for anyone, I'm just cooling it for me right now.
I think that's the best thing you could do, though, to not think and be like, oh, I have to create something. It's like just absorb. Like there's a time to just absorb and just listen. And like when you're in Europe, you're going to just, there's just so much. There's so much. But yeah, that wraps up this episode. Okay. How Guadeloupe is going to work is we're going to do the second part of this story. And then the last episode on Guadeloupe, we're going to cover a woman named Solitude and a man named Louis Delgrade. And if you're from this island, you know exactly who these two people are. They are warriors. They're incredible. And they fought the French to the death. So we'll kind of cover that the last episode. But we got to cover Joseph. And yeah, that's it for this episode.
Thank you for having me. My name is Ralph, a.k.a. SOURJACK. And this is Marie.
Just Marie.
Walker.
No, my last name's so lame.
You want me to say your name again? Marie Walker?
Walker? Yeah.
Walker? Hey, you like Walker like that, but Walker. Walker. Yes, it is French. You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit is French. Cause smooth like that.
No.
Ralph Laguerre.
Chevalier.
Chevalier. Ooh, that's a gangster name, Chevalier.
Hey, honestly, Ralph, you could literally start calling yourself that and no one knows what it means. So it'd be like, yo, my name's Chevalier.
Chevalier. They'll be like, ooh. But they'll be like, nigga, did you just watch that Hulu movie? How you going to call yourself Simba? That's pretty much what I'm saying. Like after watching Lion King, like, yo, my name's Simba, y'all.
I actually know a Simba.
Do you really?
Yeah. But on that note, peace out, y'all. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Tout à l'heure. Peace.
By the way, y'all, did y'all know Ralph was a musician? Like a really talented musician? Yeah, his name is SOURJACK on Spotify, and this is his new song, Vacation Time.
My veins like cool runnings. I ain't never been afraid.